Hi everybody, welcome to episode 11 of Restoration Z. In the last episode you would have seen we got the frame basically stripped now, as you can see, all bare metal. This needs to be degreased a little bit before we get on to painting it. I have half a dozen parts down here, like the side stand and that also needs to be primed and painted. Also got like the dog links and the engine mounts that need to be sprayed as well. There isn't a huge amount, it literally is just half a dozen items here, plus the frame as I say. Stage one for today is probably cocooning up the garage in plastic. I've got a ton of plastic sheeting and a staple gun, and I'm going to cocoon this place the best I can to give myself a clean working area to paint in. I need to go and get some antihistamines because the flowers are just attacking me right now. As you can see, I've done my best to clear the place out. You know, I've got all the parts out of here and stuff. And before anyone says, what is all this? All of this is not mine, okay? It's going slowly, it's not mine. Same as that down there. I'm constantly being asked, why didn't you clear your garage up? And I'm like, it's not my stuff. Shut up. I do also need to work out how I'm going to hang these parts, because I've got some, I took some welding wire off my MIG welder to hang them in the air. But I need to hang them off of something, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that one yet. But I think number one job is cocooning the garage. We can do everything else out of here, but we can't do anything until that's done. So let's do that. So all I'm going to do is take these plastic sheets, this staple gun, and just try and cover the garage the best I can to make sure I've got a little area to work and paint in. I'll probably skip ahead in the video doing that rather than showing you a lot of it, because I'm also going to be doing a Patreon exclusive little mini video with a little mini Q&A in it, like the one I did before. If you'd like to be part of the next one, whenever that will be, some point in the build series, please consider joining my Patreon, links in the description. Anyway, let's go on. I stapled all around the edges, so hopefully the plastic will stay there. And you see, it's taped in other places. Stapled here and there and everywhere, and I think I have enough room that I can walk around the entire frame, get to every part and not touch anything. Awesome, awesome. Today I ideally want to get everything acid etch primed and normal primer so I can leave that 24 hours to set, which shouldn't be a problem, I hope. But the first thing I need to do is degrease these, and I'm using panel white paint thinner basically, with some clean gloves. I already cleaned these before now, but I'm just getting the, you know, absolute all the grease off, and they're going onto a clean towel once they're clean. Okay, so now what I need to do, now that I've degreased those, I've got clean gloves again, so now everything's degreased. I just need to add wires on. I'm using a MIG welding wire because it's very strong, but also very, very thin, so it will minimise the contact point inside the holes. And it will allow me to hang everything and be able to paint it all at once. I'm doing the small stuff first, and then I'll go to doing the frame. This will be like my test run, because the small stuff's easy to fix. I realised I didn't need to do the washers that go in the linkage at the back. They're not painted anyway. They've got some galv left on them, so I'll leave that as is. Today is Wednesday. I've worked out, if all goes to plan, I should be done painting by Friday afternoon with the frame ready. Well, 24 hours after the clear coat will be Saturday. I really can't wait to get the first layer of primer on. It always is the most satisfying thing when these, you know, cleaned up pieces of metal end up looking like parts again, ready to paint. Okay, what I've done is I've zip tied and masking taped a piece of copper rod across here, and then I'm using the wires, as I say, to hang all the parts. So now I need to give these a thin coat of acid etch, then a second thin coat of acid etch, then a thin coat of primer, then another thin coat of primer, and that should be it, depending on how thickly it all goes down. But I know the primer, the normal standard grade primer, does build not too high, but it's a good primer. I like it. It's very uniform. My God, the painting's about to begin. Not quite sure how I'm going to film that though, because I don't want to spray the camera. It might have to peek from a corner. Okay, so I've got my acid etch primer. I need to give this basically 2 coats, maybe 1, depends how it goes on. I'm going to try and do it thinly, but probably 2 coats of the acid etch. I have to leave it 3 to 5 minutes between each coat. Then I need to leave it for at least sort of 20 minutes, according to the paperwork, at least 20 minutes before doing the primer. I'm probably going to leave it half hour just to be sure. It's quite good temperatures at the moment. And yeah, and then we'll move on to the frame. But I'm going to degrease the frame while I'm waiting for these to dry. I think you get the idea. I now need to move the camera. So now it's time to do a layer of standard prime. Right, well the first coat of the standard primer is done. I think they'll probably need one more, maybe two. Right, well those got 2 coats of acid etch primer and 3 coats of standard primer. As you can see, the results are very nice, but they need to be left for 24 hours now. I'll move them inside later on. It's just while it's nice and warm out here. Perfect opportunity to bake them in the sun. Now I need to go and do the frame. I have found a creature enjoying the sunshine. Right, where are we? Okay, so the frame is now on the stand. What I've done is, and this is a trick I've heard of before now, is I've used tin foil balled up to fill the screw threads so I don't have to dig all the paint out the screw threads. They're clean. I don't want to, you know, fill them up with paint. Same with a few other places. They're just poked in like little sausages, so you just stop it getting all the way down. And with like these ones, you can like put it in, squidge it, and then like press it with a screw or a bolt or something, and you can just get it to sit just under the surface, so you can get paint all the way around your screw holes. But not too much. I've done the same thing for the oil tank filler. I've shoved this bung in, but it leaves enough of a space around the outside to be able to paint the inside edge, because that was grey before. So I've bit the bullet. It's staying grey. I've just masked up the little top. In the future, if I can find one of those rivets, I can pop this off, take the lock out, mask off around here, repaint that white, put it all back in. It can be fine. Like what I did before with the little pieces of cardboard in the top, I've done it again, but I made these that fit much tighter, and then I used a straw, which I've stapled, and then pulled and stapled so it's really held together nicely, and filled the hole with a bit of tape, so that covers up there. And as I say, the corresponding bit is down there. So yeah, the frame's in a good state. You know, the question is like, where do you stop these things? I was going through getting all the paint off absolutely everywhere. There isn't a problem painting over good paint, but where I'd used the paint stripper, I was concerned that the paint anywhere wasn't good. That's why I made the point of going down to absolutely nothing everywhere. What did end up happening was some places like down in here were impossible to get to, basically, utterly impossible. And I didn't want to leave rust or paint in those places, so I ended up speaking to my brother, who lent me his little handheld sandblaster, which, you know, they're not very powerful, they're not very big. You certainly couldn't do a big job with it, but when you want to just clean out a little pocket like that, absolutely perfect. That's why that looks a little bit dull opposed to next to it, because that's been sandblasted. I did use a fine medium, yeah, fine medium, not medium. But yeah, it took it off really nicely. Any paint that's left after sandblasting isn't going anywhere. Now, to degrease this, I cleaned and cleaned and cleaned it. I then washed it over with a paintbrush and paint thinners multiple times. I mean, a lot of it, so it would just run off. So hopefully it would take the grease away with it. Then wiped it all down with a clean cloth. And then I've got these from Halfords, which are these paint preparation wipes. Obviously, you're not going to do a car with these, but when you want to just prep one little area, because these are individual little wipes that are white, you can see the dirt that's coming off, if there is any. And they're like £1.50 for 5, and one of these easily goes over the whole frame. So for less than £3, I've got 10 goes over, so I'm basically wipe it down again and again and again and again, even if it seems pointless, because I've got them, I might as well use them, and any grease is a problem. It's already about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I know I need to degrease this. I also need to go to the shop. I also need to cook dinner for us, and I also need to get 2 coats of acid etch and 3 coats of prime minimum on this frame tonight. It might be a late one. Okay, well, I've cleaned it, and I've cleaned it, and I've cleaned it. Everything's plugged up that needs to be plugged up, everything's masked that needs to be masked. There is nothing for it than to get this primer on, and it's got to go on tonight. It's nearly 6 o'clock. I've got to get the 2 coats of acid etch on in the next half an hour or so, then leave that for a bit, and then do the 3 coats of primer this evening, and then I can leave that overnight. So I need to get on. Okay, you ready for this? This is 2 coats of acid etch primer. Yeah. Looks a million times better. I went really heavy down in these pockets with the acid etch. The reason you use acid etch primer on steel, bare steel, is it's got phosphoric acid in it, and it will kill rust that's down in welds and stuff. However, to my understanding, it is not the last primer you use, it is just merely the metal layer. That's why we go for the next layer of standard primer on top of this. On the small parts I did 3 coats, but it's because they were so small that I could do them, you know, one side at a time. With this, you kind of hit it from so many angles because of where you got to get to. 2 coats will probably be plenty. It's about 7:30 in the evening, so yeah, I'm going to be up late doing this, and then I'll be editing this tonight before we get on tomorrow, getting the white on. Oh, I totally forgot to mention this, and I know someone's going to say it, so let's cover it. Why am I using grey primer when I'm using white paint? Simply, the acid etch happens to be grey anyway, but even if it wasn't, I would still be using grey primer because I'd like to be able to see where I'm painting. White primer with white paint is a pain in the butt, and I would rather take the few tones less or a couple of extra coats of white to get back to the white tone, because I've gone for like a brilliant white, so I don't mind if it's a few steps down, and know where I've painted rather than questioning that the whole time. So that is why I've gone with grey, just in case you're wondering. Time to do the normal primer. Thankfully, the fumes of this are nothing like the acid etch. So now we've just got to leave that for a while. As you can see, it's gone down a couple of tones, so it's easy to see what I have hit. I don't think I've missed anything. And then I'll leave it a bit longer, and then I'll do another coat, and that'll probably be it, maybe a third. I'll see. Okay, so it's the following morning, and it's had all its coats of primer. I think I did 2 good coats, because obviously where you go backwards and forwards, you're actually getting pretty good coverage over the whole area rather than just a small bit. But yeah, it's come out real nice. I'm very pleased with this. I did go very thick down in here to make sure I've got lots of protection going on down there. What I now need to do is move this to a safe location, and then spray all the small parts that we primed yesterday. Okay, so now I've got a spray with the white I'm going with. This is just a standard gloss white. It's quite a brilliant white, but that's fine because, as I've mentioned before, the grey is going to knock it down a few tones. So I think the outcome will be absolutely fine. I'm going to spray all of these white. These are the engine mountings. It makes sense to make the engine mountings white because I was thinking of doing them black, and I was like, well, then it's a white frame, black mount, silver engine. Why have black in there? Go white, white, silver onto the engine. The tail tidy I'm doing white as well because you can't really see it, and it'll be fine up there. The reason I'm doing this, like wanting to use the same colour for everything, is it means I don't have to do different rounds of spraying. I can do everything in one go. The one thing, oh, and these are the drop links. White drop links will look cool. You don't really see them anyway. They're hidden under the bike. It will just stand out as a little key feature, a bit of accent white of some sort. The one thing that you will think that is kind of weird on here is the side stand. I'm spraying the side stand white. Yes, I know that's kind of a stupid idea because, you know, you're kicking it, it gets dirty and stuff, but I want to know what it looks like. It's not difficult to change. It's a part I can take off at any time while wheel it down in 10 minutes. But I think because of the silver of the swing arm, with that being black, it kind of just really stands out. If it was white, it would be hidden in from a side perspective, I think. So, there is my reasoning. I'm going to shut up now. So they've had 4 coats of white paint. We had no runs. Everything looks nice. I'm going to double check them tomorrow once these are fully dry. They are dry now, but I'm just leaving them for 24 hours before I can put the clear coat on them anyway. But I can double check any issues then. So now I need to get the frame done. It's nearly 5 in the afternoon. The time has come. The white's going on. I've just been over the surface, make sure there's no little bits of fluff or anything. They're just going to brush off. You just have to sort of rub your finger over them and they'll come off. The surface of this is a good enough finish that I don't need to sand it. I'm not concerned about that. So yeah, I just got to get on paint it. Now this is going to get tricky in a minute because obviously the first coat's easy to see. The second coat's quite easy to see. The third coat's going to start getting tricky to see. And beyond that, you kind of have to remember where you sprayed for the next coat. Because if there's one area you forget or one angle you forget, it won't get that coat. And if you keep doing that every time, you end up with a piece that's not painted at all. Well, that's the first coat on, but obviously it's very dull at the moment, so more coats to go. It's around 10:30 at night, but 4 coats of white paint later. Ta-da! There you go. It's come out quite nicely. See, this is an Appalachian white, and the white has gone back to white. It's a very brilliant white, so even over the grey, we've still got a nice white, as I thought. I've been over this and over it and over it and over it, you know, to make sure we've got good coverage. And I've also been very heavy in this area to make sure, because this is where the rust issue was before, so we can guess that this is where the rust issue will be again in the future. So if we go very thick, very heavy with the primers and the paints, hopefully it won't happen nearly as quickly. I'll look from the other side. Sorry, the lighting's not great now because obviously it's night time, so I haven't got the light from behind me. But yeah, as I say, it's come out nice. I'm very pleased with it. It's still got to have a couple of layers, 2 or 3 layers of clear coat, just to help protect the paint. Right, I have come to realise as I'm editing this as I'm going, this is probably a good point to end this episode and pick up again in the next one to keep this one of a normal length. I don't want to go too long, but I'd also like to have enough time to explain the sort of the details where I can. So, huge thanks to my Patreon supporters as ever. Please remember to like this video if you're enjoying it. Remember to subscribe to see part 12 and the rest of this bike going back together. And if you would like to support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon. I would really appreciate it. Catch you next time. Bye bye. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to see future videos. This channel is made possible by the support of the audience. Please consider joining my Patreon to get early access to videos, questions answered in the monthly Q&A, your name on screen, and some exclusive content, all for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the links in the description to my merch and other ways to directly support the channel. Thanks for watching.